that un-American in the sense that white supremacy is part of the marbled nature of America. It's the worst part of us. And a conscientious citizenship at this point has to be about making perennial forces like white supremacy ebb as opposed to flow. And right now we have someone in power who has been content to manage and marshal those forces and not make them ebb.
You know, Eddie Glaude, anybody that has been following news at all for the past 3-4 years knows that we could, and we have, but we could this morning show clips of the President of the United States inciting violence at his rallies, talking about beating the hell out of people, talking about paying anybody that beats the hell out of somebody, talking about assassinating Hillary Clinton with what he called Second Amendment solutions to her appointing federal judges. We could go down a long laundry list. We could also go down a long laundry list of what he said about immigrants. Again, calling Hispanics breeders, calling Mexicans rapists, calling women of Congress who oppose his policies un-American, just saying that they should go back home. That is a Nazi sort of chant. It's what the Nazis said and thought about Jews and about gypsies. We saw it spill over into the crowd in North Carolina, chanting, go back home, send her home. Again, this is not, it doesn't take a great imagination. In fact, it takes a great deal of denial on the part of any Donald Trump supporter to not hear this continued hateful language, to not hear the continued warnings from people saying this will lead to violence, and then to try to pretend that what happened in El Paso wasn't connected directly to the hate speech of Donald J. Trump.
You know, you're absolutely right, Joe. And first of all, my heart goes out to the families in El Paso. I'm thinking about the mother who was murdered as she was trying to shield her child and fell on a two-year-old and broke his bones as she was trying to protect him. The carnage is horrible. It's evil. I think it's important for us to understand, though, that there is a kind of continuum. Donald Trump isn't, as you rightly noted, he didn't pull the trigger, but he embraces, along with a whole bunch of others, he embraces a view of America that some scholars will call inherent vote democracy. He thinks that this is, in fact, a white nation. He's worried about the demographic shifts, Joe, and he's making an argument. He's appealing to the darker sides of the country in order to put forward this view that this country must be and must remain a white nation. And over the course of our history, whenever that argument is being made, it's being made in the moment in which the country is experiencing profound shifts. You can look at it, Joe, at each historical pivotal moment, when we're about to change, there's an escalation in violence. There's an escalation in the defense of the way we expect our world to be. And I think John hit it on the head. Instead of us trying to it, we're allowing it to flow. And so we have to be honest with ourselves, Joe. We have to tell the truth. And our history suggests that we're not very good in these moments. And we finally have to stop, it seems to me, and be honest with ourselves and tell ourselves the truth about what we make possible. Not the folks on the fringe, not the folks on the margins, but what we make possible. Because this is the soil that allows this stuff to grow and then to explode and lead to the death of so many people.
And there's always this attitude among some that you can't talk about politics at a time like this.
Wow.
Are you serious? Are you stupid? Because that's stupid. That's devoid of any knowledge about anything. And you have politicians, Republican politicians, saying that right now. Federal prosecutors are treating the El Paso, Texas mass shooting inside a Walmart as a case of domestic terrorism. The U.S. attorney there says his office is investigating the 21-year-old white male suspect for hate crime charges and firearm charges, which carry a penalty of death. The El Paso district attorney also says his office will seek the death penalty. Officials say the suspect drove about 10 hours to get to the El Paso Walmart that was packed with back-to-school shoppers on Saturday morning and opened fire, killing 20 people and wounding 26 more. The El Paso police chief says the suspect surrendered without incident. We're told he's speaking freely and has been forthcoming with information. And about 20 minutes before the shooting in El Paso took place, a hate-filled diatribe appeared online, believed to be linked to the shooter. The unsigned essay was posted on an extremist website and said the attack was motivated by anti-immigrant hatred, specifically mentioning a Hispanic invasion of Texas. The post draws direct inspiration from the mass murder of Muslims at 2 mosques in New Zealand in March that left 51 people dead. In that attack, the suspect published an essay online promoting a white supremacist theory called the Great Replacement. The theory argues that elites in Europe have been working to replace white Europeans with immigrants from the Middle East and North Africa. The diatribe potentially linked to the El Paso killings begins, "In general, I support the Christchurch shooter and his manifesto. This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas." As the New York Times points out, if the essay is linked to the El Paso gunman, it potentially underscores the global spread of white supremacist ideology in the age of social media and at a time when immigration in America and elsewhere has become a divisive political topic.
Well, it's important to remember that the Christchurch shooter's manifesto actually took his inspiration in part from the white supremacist shootings in South Carolina. And you can look at Pittsburgh. You can connect the dots. Now, there are, again, we don't know what moves shooters to do certain things. And anybody that takes a gun and goes in and mows down people in schools or churches or Walmarts obviously have diseased minds, and there are a lot of different things working on it. Here, though, in this instance at least, it's not about him saying he's a Republican or saying he's a Democrat, because he said he doesn't like Democrats or Republicans. But it's about this guy specifically using words that are similar to Donald Trump's, and also talking about how Texas may end up, actually says Texas will go Democratic in the coming elections to come because more Hispanics are, quote, invading Texas, which of course has been the president's theme for the past 4 years, that Mexicans and Hispanics are invading America. And you know, the president's rhetoric, it's raised concerns in real time about the violence that it could engender. Mm-hmm. And every time he has ignored one warning after another. And also, I think this is even more important, his Republican allies on the Hill, also corporations that are supporting Donald Trump's reelection, also business people who are supporting Donald Trump's reelection because they might like a tax cut, but they don't care about the racism. They don't care about the white supremacy. They don't care about what the man who they're writing checks for in corporations, who they're writing checks for, CEOs of companies, whose PACs are giving to Donald Trump because they might like a tax cut. They've remained silent as well. They're allowing his rise. They're working hard for his reelection, despite his white supremacy, despite his violent rhetoric. And despite that violent rhetoric going back to the start of the president's campaign 4 years ago, we're going to look at, though, just some of the past 2 years. Here was the president's reaction to a torch rally chanting hate slogans in Charlottesville, Virginia, the night before an anti-racism protester was murdered